CyberHub bunker and studio. You're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Practitioner Brief. This one is pre-recorded, so for all of you watching live, I won't be pulling up comments. I'm sorry, I had to pre-record this because I've got a trip, and I'll be airborne when this airs. So I do apologize, but thank you all for tuning in. We've got a packed show. I'm recording this the night before, so if anything happens over the next, let's say, 6-7 hours, it's probably because I missed it from the time of recording to the time we're publishing it. But a lot going on in the world of cybersecurity. One, the world is fighting back against the Russian aggression, especially in cyber warfare. A lot is going on in cyber warfare beyond just cyber attacks and DDoS attacks and ransomware, and a lot of it is commercial. A lot of it impacts our business. We're going to be talking about that on today's show. Also, Axis Communication hit with a cyber attack, and Toyota goes offline in what could be a geopolitical cyber attack move right now. So, folks, we'll get into that and so much more on this morning's show. First of all, thank you to KnowBe4 for their support of today's program. This program would not be possible without their support. You can go to cyberhubpodcast.com to check out the latest. Given the late hour, I'm skipping my morning espresso, but if you're drinking yours, now's the time to take a sip. Coffee cup cheers, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. So, cyberhubpodcast.com is where you can find all the latest in our shows. If you're interested in being a guest on CISO Talk, you can also apply there. If you're interested in sponsoring, you can also do that on our website. So let's start off with the news around Russia and the Ukraine. Hostilities are obviously continuing. The peace talks were nothing but a dull moment, hosted by a very non-neutral third party, being Belarus, which is essentially a Russian puppet state. A lot going on in this current battle and a lot of noise, right? And so we're starting to, people are wanting to address some of this noise. We'll start off with this. Microsoft is talking about cyber attacks in the Ukraine that are hitting civilian digital targets, and it's calling to attention to the surge of this, calling it a digital war that includes destructive malware attacks on emergency response services and humanitarian aid efforts. Microsoft said that we remain especially concerned about the recent cyber attacks on Ukrainian civilian digital targets, including the financial sector, agricultural, emergency response services, humanitarian aid, and energy sector organizations and enterprise, according to Microsoft President Brad Smith, who goes on to say these attacks on civilian targets were a serious concern under the Geneva Convention, and we have shared information with the Ukrainian government about each of them, according to Microsoft. We've also advised the Ukrainian government about recent cyber efforts to steal a wide range of data, including health, insurance, and transportation-related PII, as well as other government data assets. There's a lot going on there. The new malware, which is dubbed Foxblade, was aimed at a range of targets, including Ukrainian military institutions and manufacturers and several other Ukrainian government agencies, according to Brad Smith. The recent ongoing cyber attacks have been precisely targeted. They have not seen the use of indiscriminate malware technology that spread across Ukraine's economy and beyond its borders in the 2017 NotPetya attack. So that gives you something. Russia's also moving to block content from Russian state-owned media properties like RT and Sputnik from its MSN.com and Microsoft Start platforms. It's also removing RT from the Windows App Store and deranking the company's Bing search results so that it will only return RT and Sputnik links when a user clearly intends to navigate to those pages. In Europe, they've already banned a lot of the Russian media, calling it straight propaganda media. So the world has learned a little bit from the history. They're starting to take actions. Is it a little too late? We'll find out. The narrative in Russia is one. The narrative across the world is another. And some of that narrative is being discussed and moved around like with fringe groups. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. So we'll move to our next story. We're going to get to the whole fringe groups and misinformation and disinformation here just after this one story. So anonymous hacker group is targeting Russian state media as well. The group targeted the websites of state news agencies TASS and RIA Novosti, as well as taking over websites of newspaper Kommersant and Izvestia and Forbes Russia magazine. It posted messages appealing to Russians to try to stop the war and not participate as fighters. In a few years, we'll live like in North Korea. What's in it for us for Putin to make the history books? It's not our war. Let's end it, said a Russian message. These messages also indicate that some of these anonymous group and some of these anonymous members are also of Russian descent. So some people have been writing off this message will be deleted, and some of us will be sacked and even jailed. But we can't stand this any longer, concerned journalist of Russia. The latest cyber attack came after Thursday's hacking of the RT state-funded television channel. They also followed the downing over the weekend of the websites of the Kremlin, the Defense Ministry, and the Duma, Lumer House of Parliament by Anonymous. They were all claimed by Anonymous on Twitter. Talked about that on yesterday's show. You can go and check it out on YouTube or on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. These websites have faced a barrage of denial of service attacks as well. So Ukraine Ministry of Digital Transformation, Mikhail Fedorov, said Saturday that the country needs IT recruits and they want to recruit an IT army. Namecheap has also terminated the services for all Russians, asking them to move their domains, predominantly because they are looking to, one, ban people with Russian businesses from doing so. The other thing is that they don't want to host any Russian websites due to the malicious stuff that's going on there. So that's significant. Let's talk a little bit about disinformation and misinformation, what's going on here. So a lot's going on in the media, lots going on in Russian state media. That's why you're seeing this blocking. However, Putin still has a Twitter account, folks. Just want to say that. The Russian government still has Twitter accounts. So Twitter, with its unbelievable policy of being a dumpster fire, just garbage, an absolute garbage of a platform, for still giving the Russian government a platform on Twitter. So calling them out right here as we see it, folks. So keep your eyes on this. A lot of misinformation, disinformation coming out. A lot of the Ukrainians are also guilty of this, by the way. So just so we're crystal clear here, so you don't say, James, you're picking a side. I've stated my attachment to Ukraine. I lived there for a year. I've got many friends there. I really love the country and the people, and I feel really horrible for what's going on there. But I also know that Ukraine's also trying to build up morale and keep their people strong. So there's a lot of misinformation coming from the Ukrainian side that hasn't been verified by any third parties. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot going on there in noise. Know how to filter the stuff that's going on because it's impacting business, right? We're seeing sanctions come through. News of potential sanctions are leading organizations to already cut ties, fearing that sanctions are already there or sanctions have been implemented, even though they haven't gotten a complete directive as well. So that's also really important to pay attention to right now. A lot is going on, a lot of noise, a lot of passion. So just calm down, breathe, understand the TTPs, IOCs, understand where you are within the supply chain. If you are a target for the Russians or anyone else to target your organization, if they are, start hardening your environments to the Russian TTPs. Go to MITRE, look at MITRE attack, look at the Russian APTs, and start hardening your environment. We'll move to our two final stories here for today. Axis Communications shares details on a very disruptive cyber attack. So they've published a post Mortem about a cyber attack that caused severe disruption in their systems. While some systems are still partially offline, the Swedish manufacturer of network cameras, access control systems, and surveillance network appliances suffered a cyber attack on Sunday, February 20th, forcing it to shut down all systems. It's a subsidiary of Canon. It's been mostly business interruptions. No servers have been found to be encrypted, but we found malware and indications that internal directory services were compromised. No customer information has been found to be affected in any way. In total, we found limited signs of damaging consequences aside from the general embarrassment and productivity lost as we clear services for production step by step. So Axis talking about being operational and trying to pick back up from a cyber attack. No software level flaws were involved in the network breach, according to them. So some post-mortem there. Toyota's Japan production has halted over a suspected cyber attack. Toyota suspending production at all 28 lines of its 14 plants in Japan starting Tuesday because of a system malfunction that a domestic supplier suspected is a cyber attack. Kojima Industries, based in Toyota City in central Japan, said Monday the problem could be a cyber attack as an error was detected in its computer server systems. As a result, the company said its systems could not communicate properly with Toyota or monitor production, although there was nothing physically wrong with the production equipment. Kojima spokesperson Tomiharu Takayama said the company was investigating and working to fix the problem. This has never happened before. We're not sure yet if it's a cyber attack, but we suspect it might be one. Let me tell you what's going on. All right. Japan and Korea have joined the West with sanctions. Some of those sanctions, including selling Japanese and Korean cars to the Russian market. So this could be nothing, or it could be retaliation. Because China's sitting on the sidelines, we're not still sure. China's trying to play both sides against the middle. I don't know that is going to work for him. The whole world's fairly united against Russia at this time. The only people that are siding with the Russians right now is Assad, who killed 500,000 of his own people with chemical weapons using the Russian military, and Iran, the world's greatest sponsor of terror. All right. So China not picking a side here could be something. But in Japan, this is significant, especially already with what's going on in the supply chain and the car shortage. None of this is helping at this time, folks. None of it is helping at this time. So a lot to pay attention to. A few things, though, to take away from today's show. One, understand that the Russia-Ukraine warfare is now in the side of business sanctions and a lot of blocking for Russian organizations. So blocking Russian domains, not doing business with Russia in general as a whole, right? If that was your thing before, that's one. If you've got a workforce in Russia that you rely on, now's probably not the time you're going to be able to really engage that workforce. So you've got to find secondary things and other alternatives to that, especially in today's economy. That could be a challenge. We're seeing the cyber warfare aspect not just be about DDoS attacks and ransomware and malware wiping, but it's also about misinformation, disinformation. It's also about business continuity. There's a lot more to this, folks. That's it for our show today. We'll be back with a lot more tomorrow, and I'll be with you live on Wednesday. Until then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.